Again, I'm Peter Young, and I'm very, very pleased to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Seifi Ghasemi, who is the Chairman, President, and CEO of Air Products and Chemicals. You know, it's funny, usually the introduction I go through, but he's one where giving an introduction is kind of silly because everyone knows him well and knows his career. But quite simply, really two things. One is he's had just an extraordinary career in the chemical industry. He did exceptional things for shareholder value and business strategy as the CEO of Rockwood, and now is doing the same thing at Air Products. I've known Seifi for many, many years, and it's just it's really extraordinary what he's been able to do. And his energy level is also, you know, pretty amazing. So I won't go through details, but I just found out that really a pretty amazing thing that every year the institutional investor comes out with their survey, you know, of all these institutional investors. They have an All-American Executive Team survey, and they just released the 2016 All-American Executive Team survey, and the number one ranked company, the CEO on the buy side was Air Products, and the number one ranked on the sell side was Air Products. So that's like an NFL team that's ranked number one, both on offense and defense. I don't think this has happened before, so it's really pretty extraordinary. It made me feel very good because I think that's just further endorsement of why it's great to have him as a speaker. He's going to talk about this important issue, which is really what the CEO's job is creating shareholder value in what is really pretty extraordinary times. So please join me in welcoming Seifi Ghasemi, Chairman, President, CEO of Air Products.
Okay, well, good afternoon. It's obviously a pleasure for me to be here. I have the honor and pleasure of knowing some of the people in the room, and it's good to meet the people that I haven't met before. As Peter said, I have known him for a long time, and so when he called me and asked me to come and give a talk, I certainly accepted with a great deal of pleasure. And the subject he wanted me to talk about is something which is close and dear to my heart, which is about creating value for our shareholders. All of you know Air Products, and I can't help but just mention a few words that we are a global industrial gas company. We are very fortunate to have 20,000 dedicated and committed employees who are helping us get our job done every day. We operate in 50 countries, we have 750 production facilities, and we have sales of about 10 billion, including our joint ventures, about $12 billion a year, and a market capitalization of $30 billion. I thought that in order to do justice to the subject, I will be brief, to the point, and then also give an example of how we have taken some of the principles I'm talking about and applied it to specifically Air Products. And then at the end, I'll show you the kind of results that we have been able to achieve. All of the people in this room are very experienced people. I don't think I'm going to be telling you anything that you don't know, but I just like to emphasize some of the key points. I also like to mention that the comments that I make are really applicable to large public companies or multinational and are in mainstream businesses. What I'm saying might not necessarily apply to creating value if you are Facebook or Google or something. When somebody has an outstanding idea that creates fantastic shareholder value. I'm just mainly talking about public companies, standard companies in the main line of business. What can you do to really turn them around and create value for your shareholders? The key points that I'm going to make is really 3 points. That the most important thing is to have a very, very clear and very simple goal for the organization. A goal that can be understood by your senior management, but also by the driver and the operator all the way in the plant. Because, as they say, if you don't know where you are going, every way seems to be the right way. You have to have a very, very focused goal that everybody understands and everybody commits to. The second thing is that once you have a goal, it is obvious that one person cannot implement that, especially in a large organization. And it is also a little bit foolish to think that, well, I'm going to have the top 50 people motivated, they are going to do that. You need the help and support of all 20, 30, 40,000 people in the company. So you have to pay attention to organizing these people properly, motivating them properly, and rewarding them properly so that they can implement their strategy. I mean, there's a famous saying that no football game has ever won a game just because of what the coach knows. What matters is what the players in the field know. And that is important, that you motivate and get the people focused on what you want them to do so that they can execute. And then the other thing that I believe very strongly is that creating value is all about generating cash. I don't think EPS is a good measure of creating value. I don't think growth is a good measure. It's all about cash and focusing on the cash that comes in and out of the company and accumulating cash, because that is what really drives shareholder value. So with that, on the first subject, setting a very clear, simple goal for the organization that everybody understands. What we did at Air Products was saying basically that Air Products is going to be the safest and the most profitable industrial gas company in the world. Safety, an issue that everybody understands. It is of high degree of importance in a business that we are in chemicals, where you're dealing with dangerous gases. And then being the best in terms of profitability. EBITDA margins, EBITDA as a percentage of sales, EBIT as a percentage of sales, your return on capital and all of that. That is how we did it at Air Products. Now, at any other company, different companies are different. But my point is that having a 3-page vision and mission statement usually doesn't do it, and it actually creates confusion. And trying to come up, spend 2 hours trying to describe what the company needs to do. So setting a very simple goal, as I said, that everybody, all the way up and down the organization, can relate to, is of paramount importance. Then, with respect to the company, one other thing is, usually there has been through the years many different theories about how you create value by you have one business, you have a conglomerate and all of that. I think everybody is coming to the conclusion that having a company that is focused on its core competency is the most important thing. Because if you are focused on your core competency, then you do things right. When you branch out, I don't believe that anybody can manage anything, can manage everything. There is expertise involved. So getting the company focused is important. Even if you are running a conglomerate, you can run a conglomerate as long as each one of the businesses, the management is focused on what they can execute the best, what they know the best, that they know the industry deeply. The CEO understands what he is doing, understands the business all the way up and down, and can get the company focused on it. And eliminate the so-called non-core businesses. Now, in recent years, you have seen many big companies trying to break themselves up and all of that, which I honestly believe is absolutely the right thing. So at Air Products, right off the bat, we said we are an industrial gas company. Therefore, we are going to spin off our chemical business and run it as a separate company. And we are going to get out of the waste-to-energy business. That's about 20% of our company. Now, when you make those proposals, usually your board say, well, wait a minute, we are going to be a smaller company. Yeah, smaller company, but maybe a better position to create value for your shareholders, because size is not the key thing. Creating value is the right thing. Then, With respect to the people, I said with the people, you need to first organize them properly. So you need to look at the organization and say what kind of business you have and what is the optimum organizational structure. And my experience has always been, absolutely, fundamentally challenge the status quo. That people say that we have been running it like this for 40 years. Why have you been running it like this for 40 years? Absolutely challenge them. So, in Air Products, we are a global company, sure. So the tendency is, we need a global structure to run a global company. But when you really get deep into it, is that if you're running an industrial gases business, liquid oxygen, once you make it, after 200 miles of traveling, it evaporates. So you have a local business. You don't have a global company. We are global in geographically, but we should run the business on a local basis. Because that is where it happens, that's where your product is. We are not making product in one part of the world and shipping it in another part of the world. So that is where we challenge the existing structure and totally change the organization upside down. And as a result, we were able to eliminate significant layers of management. And we were able in the last year to take more than 10% of our people out. And these are not operating people. These are not drivers. These are people who were sitting at the corporate headquarters saying, what do you do? Well, I'm vice president of supply chain. Well, what does that mean? What do you actually do? That is how we have been able to reduce the workforce without damaging the ability of our company to serve our customers. So I go back to the principle that you always have to really understand the business and organize the people optimally to execute what you want them to do, rather than going with the latest trend in organizational structure and all that. Then, I have always used this chart that an organization, you have the CEO, top management, and the employees. If you're trying to drive change through the organization, going through the standard organizational structure, you will always fail, because there is less middle management that is going to prevent you from doing what you want to do. If you really want to change things, you need to bypass that. The CEO and the top management need to get to the people right on the shop floor and create a revolution from the bottom. That is how you are going to defeat that middle management that will always get in your way in any company, because they are the people who are committed to maintaining the status quo and maintaining their power base. So coming in there and bringing 10 people and say, I'm going to change the company, nothing is going to happen. You have to take the time and the effort and go and motivate the masses of the people. So I do believe in that, and about getting to the people, changing their attitudes and changing the culture and communicating. And I'm going to come back to the culture, because the culture and the attitude of the people is what makes all the difference in the world. People come to work, if they are not motivated, if they are not thinking the right way, they will never contribute the way their potential is. So at Rockwood, what I have, I believe in this statement, I use this all the time, then the only element of sustainable competitive advantage is the degree of commitment and motivation of your people. Because when you compare, I take Air Products, compare ourselves to our competitors, it's a competitive game. We cannot be arrogant to say, well, we are going to beat our competition because we are smarter. Well, our competition are a bunch of smart people. We can't claim that we have better technology, but they have good technology, and besides that, these days, whatever technology you have, before you know it, everybody else knows about it too. We can't say that, we are in geographies that other people are not. When people, you go to China, other people come to China too. So, and even if tomorrow you go and we say we have better people, if you fire all of the 20,000 people at Air Products and hire another 20,000 people, what do you get? You get a cross-section of the society. So at the end of the day, the only competitive competitive advantage that you have is how motivated and how dedicated your people are to actually come to work and contribute. And every one of them, not just your top 10 people, but all of the 20,000 people. It takes time and effort to do that. The way we have done it at Air Product is that I have taken the time, and I'm very proud to say in the last year and a half, I have actually met with 11,000 of our people, shook their hands, took 2 hours, made the presentation to them, and answered their questions, and trying to get them aligned with what we are trying to do. And also demonstrating to them that we appreciate what they do. They are the company. And I always say at Air Products, the ideal thing is to have 20,000 CEOs, so that everybody, every day, everybody comes to work and do their best to contribute. That is what needs to be done. Now, once I do that, then the rest of my management do that, and then you get a swelling of support down from the organization that changes it. And then the other thing is it's all about the culture in the company. You have to be very open and honest with the people about what are the values that you are pushing. At Air Products, we have made these buttons that all of us wear, which says safety is number one job. There is nothing more important than that, and everybody understands that. Then the other thing is simplicity. We want to have a simple organization chart. We want to have simple work processes. A lot of times people like to make things complicated so that it looks like they're running a very sophisticated business. At the end of the day, the simpler the organization, the simpler your work processes, the more efficient you are. And that is what we strive for every day. The other thing is the speed. We need to get things done. We need to run. This is the walking. Speed is a competitive advantage. And trying to get the organization and set an example. When we have a project and we go after a project, it shouldn't take a year and a half before it gets approved by the board. It should take a week. And that is a competitive advantage, and we have some examples of how we have been able to win projects because we move faster than the other people. And then the last one, which I think is hugely important, is organizational self-confidence. The self-confidence that this company, as an organization, as a group of people, can do anything it sets its goal to. We can be the best. Rather than an organization where it's saying, we are happy to be number 3. We are a good number 2. Well, why is that? Who's number 1? Who are they? They are a bunch of human beings like us. They went to the same schools and they get up in the mornings, put up their clothes the same as the rest of us. So getting the organization, not individuals, but the total organization, the self-confidence that you can do it and you can take on the biggest project, you can be the best, does wonders. And it creates a significant amount of drive in the organization and pushes the organization forward to the degree that sometimes surprises everybody. So creating that organizational self-confidence, and you need to constantly nourish that with examples, with things that has happened, and how, a lot of times you go to companies and the first thing, we want to do this, and say, oh no, we can't do that. We won't be able to win that project. Oh, why not? Somebody's going to win it. What's the matter with us? So that's the kind of thing that we have been pushing on. So I like to then go back to the issue of cash. At the end of the day, cash is the real value creation for the company. And that is what really drives the stock price. I mean, if you want to say, I'm creating value for the shareholders, well, if your stock price is not going up, you're not creating value. It doesn't matter how fast you're growing or how many companies you're buying. And that is dependent on the generation of cash. And then the other thing is that when the cash is generated, the most important job of the CEO, or at least one of the most important jobs, is proper allocation of that cash. That is how CEOs can make or do great damage to shareholder value. you end up with situation that companies make huge amount of cash, and then the CEO makes one mistake of getting his ego in front of himself and going and making a big acquisition that destroys the company. That has happened many times, and I'm sure it will happen again. That discipline of saying the cash belongs to the shareholders, rather than the mentality that sometimes management has that we have made the money. What do you mean? Give it to the shareholders? Are you kidding? We made the money. We want to become a bigger company. We want to create employment for our people. We want to do this and all of that. Rather than saying, this is the shareholders' money, and I need to be very careful how I spend it. And if I don't have good projects, give it back to the shareholders. It's not a sin. Give it back. It's their money anyway. So on this one, I'd like to have a quote from Warren Buffett, who I think has said it better than I can possibly say it. That common yardsticks such as dividend yield, price earning, book value, and so on, they don't really mean anything. They are give you some guidance about what cash in and out, but the cash is really what matters. And then we are, talking about these principles. What we did at Air Product, we took control of the cash spend, in the sense that we said, look, every project over $3 million needs my approval and Scott, my CFO's approval. Well, in a company the size of Air Products, $3 million means every single project. But so just but because the discipline was exactly that we are making the money, go find me growth, go get the project. The return is not 10%, it's 7%. Well, why don't you adjust the spreadsheet? You can always come up with 10% if you change some of the assumptions. That's the problem. So we took control of that, and at the beginning everybody says, how can you possibly do that? There's 600 projects. Said, fine, let's get it started, go through that. We have a great discipline on that, and that has created a situation that, for me, the best day of my life was about 2 weeks ago, when in one of the meetings, one of my business unit presidents come and say, well, there is this project, but I don't think we should do it, because we don't have a competitive advantage and the returns are not going to be good. And I was telling Scott as well, this makes my day. Now I don't have to do it. They are doing it themselves. That's that key discipline. I can't overemphasize this thing, because when you look at companies, some great companies with great cash flows end up destroying value for their shareholders because the cash is not being allocated properly. And then I talked about the people in terms of organizing them, motivating them, and then your reward system. How are you rewarding your people? In addition to, obviously, everybody gets a salary, but then there is some kind of a bonus structure. What is that bonus structure? Well, at Air Products, the way it was this sense of that, hey, we are all part of the same family. So 20,000 people, their annual bonus was based on one measure, which was EPS of Air Products. So, how can that be motivating to a guy in Korea to go and kill himself and make more money? Then at the end of the day, he does that, and then the guy in China is falling off the cliff, and then at the end of the day, nobody gets a bonus. So why should this other person get up in the morning and go do something? Then it becomes like an institution, and people say, well, 50% a year, we all get it, doesn't matter what we do. So what we have done is that, first of all, we say, if we believe in cash, the measure of performance is EBITDA. Forget about earnings per share, that it gets affected by pension charges and taxes and all of that. It's EBITDA. And then we are going to reward you for what you do. If you are president of Korea, your annual bonus and your people's bonus is dependent on the performance of Korea. Forget about the rest of the world. None of your performance is dependent on Air Products, because you don't control Air Products. So as a result of that, we've created more than 40 centers And then in 2015, we have business units that made zero, and we have business units that made 200% of their bonus. Because people, now you have empowered them, you have given them a goal, and they go after it. And then you break the organization down to many, many, many units, then they perform. Right? So designing the reward system is absolutely a critical thing of how you motivate the people. Then the other thing is that on a macro basis, for people like me and the management, obviously it has to be based on the performance of the company. But that has to be, I think, total shareholder return. Rather than some mumbo jumbo that companies come and say, oh, we have set a target of X for ourselves, we achieved that, so now all of the stock options vest, or the performance shares vest. It has to be related to what the shareholder, if the shareholder, and then people say, well, the market can crash. Well, then the market crashes. As long as total shareholder return, as long as you're doing better than the other people, then you get rewarded. But you are in the same, putting the management in the same boat as the shareholders. There is one other thing that I haven't put in here, which I think is very essential, and a lot of people in the room who are private equity practice that every day, and that is to require that a significant part of the CEO's net worth is in the company. I mean, if you have a CEO who is worth $100 million and he has $5 million in the company, I don't consider that to be having a lot of skin in the game. But if you have a CEO who is worth $5 million and he has $4.5 million in the company, that is a significant part. So I think this requirement that, well, CEOs 5 times their salaries being in the company, I think that should be significantly more. As I said, I would require that the CEO has 80% of his wealth in the company. You're running the company, you believe in the company, then that's where your money should be. But it's difficult to execute, but that, I think, private equity gets a lot of mileage out of doing this. So in summary, number one, clear goal, focus on your core business, then with the people, organize them properly, focus on changing the culture, and align your reward systems, and then watch the cash. Now, we have been doing this to their products, but then at the end of the day, people say, well, so what are the results? That's our results. Quarter 2 of 2014, our margins were 25%. It's the same company, essentially the same. I mean, we have changed a few people, but the 20,000 people are the same people. We haven't reinvented any new gases or any new inventions, and our margins are now 32%. That's 700 basis points for a company the size of Air Products. That's $700 million a year of EBITDA. Times 12 divided by number of shares, that's $40 a share. And that is why our shares are $40 higher than when it was there. And it's all related to that. But anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents, as they say, of what I believe is important for creating shareholder value, and I'll be delighted to answer any questions. And I don't think I'm within the time that you gave me. Okay? And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.